Hi everybody, and welcome back to Create Smarter. I am your host for today, Brooklyn Murdoch, and today we are going to be talking about bops and flops in video and film marketing. And I am joined today by the lovely Marisa and Kyle. Kyle, you've had some marketing in the past. Marisa is our resident, social media manager and marketer with us today. So how are you guys doing? Thanks for joining me.
Of course, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, not bad.
I can't believe we're talking bops and flops.
I love the name.
Title. Yeah. Immediately got excited.
Yeah, there's quite a few, I would say. I have, that's for sure. But I guess, we're going to talk about the importance of marketing in general and stuff, and things you've seen, heard, that's either made you want to watch something, buy something, see something, or tune into something. So I guess my first question is, in an overall broad sense, what makes a good marketing campaign, as you two know the most?
I mean, you got the hands on the pulse most of the time. I'm more.
Yikes. It's tough, right? I don't think that there's one answer to that question. I think, I've said this before, it's about kind of putting different content out and seeing what works. I know when, at least marketing here, we, try some LinkedIn ad campaigns and see if that works. We try some email campaigns, see if that works better. So I think there's not one solid answer to that. It's just about who you're trying to reach, what your audience's interests are and what they want to see, and trying a bunch of different stuff and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, the best marketing campaign's the one your audience pays attention to, or like your prospects, whoever you're actually trying to reach and get their attention. If they pay attention to it, you killed it. You nailed it. You hit a home run. Everyone, we're going to Applebee's. We're getting $1 margaritas.
That's a good point. Okay, so turning it a little bit, what makes a bad one? Like, what have you seen where you're just like, I don't care about that. I'm not interested in that. Whether it be LinkedIn, any type of social media, when it comes to, film trailers or even something like that. Like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think I don't have any answer in terms of, stuff that we've seen in business-wise, but just kind of, in life.
Right. When
thinking about, ad campaigns or commercials, you see stuff like that. The stuff that doesn't work for me personally, it's all subjective, right? Like, certain things are going to work for certain people. The stuff that's, super cheesy, I don't know, that's it. It can be memorable, but also it could be a turnoff. It depends on what it is. Some of it's funny, but you toe that very subjective line of this is going to be cheesy funny versus this is cheesy stupid, and I don't really want to support whatever product it is.
Funny is such a hard it's a tightrope. What is actually considered funny? You can get too crazy. You can Doritos, but was it the baby monkey dog?
Puppy monkey baby.
Puppy monkey baby
yes.
was considered this amazing one, but if you talk to any one of our parents or grandparents, they're like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
I think to me, the biggest flop when it comes to marketing is anything that's invasive. Especially because of how much we are so used to controlling our experience on the internet. I mean, we're mainly talking digital, right? We don't really work too much into TV space or anything like that. But when it comes to invasive stuff, if it's an ad pop up that I didn't care about and it's there, I mean, even the YouTube 15-second ads, sometimes they're interesting, but I read a stat recently, it's 30 hits, 30 times you have to see that ad until you even start to think about making a decision. So. And that was I'm sure that's changing because of how invasive it really is in this world. But I think anything that's invasive that isn't unique or something that's actually interesting to me, I hate. I'm get away from me. I can't stand you.
Yeah, I think invasive and something that's, hitting people too much. Not just kind of being invasive, but also getting in front of them too much. And, in terms of the marketing we do, sending them too many emails, giving them too much to look at. Then people are going to say, I don't really want to, if it's hitting them every once in a while, they'll pay attention. But I think if you're in front of them too much, it might be a turnoff instead of them paying attention.
And that's another tightrope you walk, right? It's how many times you got to touch them.
You got to be in front of them enough.
Right. You have to get in front of them. You have to people don't care. So you have to market to them a bunch. But yeah, it's a very tricky thing. But yeah, I mean, I can't stand invasive stuff. If I don't care. And that's also the hardest part about marketing right now is you want to make it customized. You want to really focus on a niche audience. But the second you just towed the line too much and the audience doesn't care, they freak out about that. And I don't care about this. I never want to see your product ever again. Yeah. There's plenty of them. I think you've heard me in the editing room scream I don't care anymore. Yeah, Stop showing me this.
That's a good point, actually. And especially in terms of the cheesiness to things, I feel especially with Super Bowl commercials, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but you know, some of them are really good, some of them are really bad. I know how much like money goes into those and they get paid for that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see like what the next day on social media is being shared and what people are actually like talking about and like what stuck with them. So next we're going to do a small segment, and it's going to be bop or flop. So I'm going to name some marketing campaigns that have been done in the past. And you guys are going to tell me whether you thought it would have been a bop or a flop. Okay?
You got it.
All right.
So we're going to start with the Super Bowl commercial, the Budweiser commercial with the dog. Do you guys remember that one about the puppy? And the man kind of like lets it like run away by any chance? It was like the dog, and it like followed the horse home kind of.
Yeah.
And it was like sad. Like it was a sad one.
Yeah. I think honestly, I don't even remember this very specific one you're talking about, but any of those like dog bop.
Okay.
Bop. I think like especially, you know, I'll let you answer and then I'll go into my reason.
I mean, the idea that you and I are trying to remember it right now kind of makes it a flop.
I guess, but I remember what it's
Right?
for, right?
Yeah, Budweiser, but I mean,
Right.
What's Up was also
Yeah.
for Budweiser.
Exactly.
Like,
So I think generally any, especially when it comes to Super Bowl commercials, anything that really pulls at your heartstrings, like dogs are always gonna be the way to get to people. Like even this year, like Amazon had that Super Bowl commercial where you thought that they were gonna get rid of this dog and they were just buying him like a dog crate with another dog like to be his friend.
Right.
But like anything with a dog, I think is gonna get people to pay attention. So I think bop.
All right, that's
Okay.
fair. All right, using celebrities when it comes to, for example, McDonald's using Cardi B and Offset as their little marketing campaign to get people to buy that meal, despite it being the same as literally everything else they've done, bop or flop, using celebrities in terms of that.
Yeah, that's a hard one. What
I'm
say
going
you?
bop. I mean, I think you're touching into the trusted source, right? If I'm a huge Cardi fan, if I'm a huge Offset fan, the fact that you put out something like, oh, wow, here's a reason should go to McDonald's. I want to see that Cardi B. I'm a huge fan of them. I love trusted sources when it comes to marketing. You guys hear me talk about that buzzword. Everyone take a sip right now or a shot if we're doing that. But
Marketing drinking game with Kyle.
you guys would be hammered.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you create the game. I'll just see how many buzzwords I say.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the reaction where we all take the shots based off of that. But I loved it. I think like the Cardi B, the Travis Scott, the all those ones are good. I think they're bops.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, you know, like you said, they aren't really doing anything different. They're just marketing it differently. And I think that's smart. It's not really creating a ton more work for McDonald's because they already have those meals that exist, right? They're just putting a new name and label on it and repackaging it and selling it differently. So I think it could be a bop because I think it's just like it's a smarter way to try to sell stuff that you already have.
You could tell who's like the current marketers. Like everything's a bop versus who's like the I've been there before,
Yeah,
kid.
right.
This is horrible.
Okay, so we're going to gear now towards whether you've seen these movies or not, but these are actually really interesting, which could be bops or flops, ways that they've marketed their film. So we're going to start off with Smile that recently came out. Have you guys heard of that, the horror film?
I have, yes.
So what they did for some reason, baseball games, they would have people stand there in like stands and just do that creepy smile that they do where they're like, you know, and smiling and just stand there the whole time. So people started to originally think it wasn't anything to do with the movie, and they were like, holy shit, this is really weird.
Yeah.
So, and everybody was like, they're definitely overcompensating for this film and stuff because their marketing is out of like, you know, it's crazy. Like they're actually doing something that's interactive. Bop or flop?
I think bop. And here's why. First of all, I don't like horror movies, but the fact that I know what you're talking about when you say that, I think is a good thing because I remember it. Because I'm not the audience they're marketing towards. I'm not gonna watch it. But I've seen a lot of attention around it because they do something like that. I think also I can't think of another instance where a movie like that has taken an everyday situation and kind of taken it as an opportunity to market their product or their movie or whatever it is. I think it's really smart to kind of put it in an everyday situation and make it a little bit more subtle and not so much in your face.
I mean, here, take the shot. Immersive experiences, I also absolutely love. It's a bop. I think it's great that, like, someone who wouldn't necessarily, Marissa hates horror movies. In fact, you could hear the hesitation if you rewind and listen to this podcast. When you said Smile, the horror movie, you could hear, that's why I cracked up, because you could hear her skin crawling. But the fact that, like you said, you're aware of it because they did something that's a little interesting that gathered media attention, that wasn't just a, hey, we created this one thing and hoped that people saw it. Yeah, it makes it a bop. I love that type of stuff.
I'd agree. So that's in terms of like the immersive, the interaction type of thing. It did a very similar thing. And both it and Smile were bops. Sorry. So their box office reception was out of this world because of their marketing. The remake used red balloons and put them in sewers to like all around cities, especially in New York, which was awesome. So things like that you would see ended up doing really well. Dark Knight Rises. They made an alternate reality game, which was a little different than most. They had people solve riddles on websites. They'd have to go out into like cities and find, codes and like hidden messages like in the real world. And then that led to like them finding like leaked information, details and stuff, which, made the interaction aspect of it very, successful and immersive. And obviously, I'm assuming you've both seen Dark Knight Rises.
I have, yes, but I don't know
I
as
look
much
right
about
at
the...
Marisa
No,
on that
I
one.
have. I'm not a movie person, but I have seen it.
Okay.
But I haven't experienced any of like the marketing around it. I don't know as much about that. But.
Yeah, that was. I remember some of that stuff. But yeah, it's interesting, like the way they did it. I'm surprised as the horror aficionado that you are. You haven't talked about paranormal activities yet. Oh, it's on there. Oh.
Give me a minute.
I'll stop.
But Dark Knight Rises. Obviously, that one was very well critically acclaimed. I have one that's super interesting. Ex Machina. Have you seen that one? There's the AI robot. Her name is Ava, and she was created, and then there's a man who's coming to visit his friend who created her, and she's trying to learn how to be a sentient being, which is very interesting. And they end up, kind of falling in love in a way. It was a very strange movie, but it was really good. So what they did, they made a fake Tinder profile for the robot, basically, because she looked real, like her face, because it was, obviously portrayed by an actual person. So anyone who matched with her and had these messages going back and forth, they sent a link just to their Instagram promoting the movie and stuff like that. Do you think that was a pop or a flop?
I don't think that.
It's a hard. That's talking about towing a line. I think it's towing a line a little bit, but I do give them credit for being creative because that's very now and stuff that's relevant now, and Tinder's obviously relevant now. So it's I think it's a creative way to get to your audience. I feel like it's ethically interesting.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know. What do you think, Kyle?
It's hard to see what the return on investment with that type of thing could be because, it is a 1-to-1, right?
Yeah, right.
Movie-wise, you want, it's all awareness. You want more people to take a shot to be aware of your movie so that ideally they're all coming to things. So, it does. I just also crack up to the poor horny nerd who thought he's I am crushing this. She's a 10. I'm killing it.
Right?
Oh, my God. Mom, you might as well save the date. I'm about to get married. It was a movie the whole time? What?
Yeah, that's where we come with the ethic boundaries.
The ethics of the fact that you message immediately just a link to Ex Machina's Instagram page promoting the film is very strange because it's
I wonder how many unsolicited photos those poor marketers got back from that. There's a lot of
that's
disgusting stuff.
And the movie at first didn't do too well, honestly. It didn't do great. And then, a year later, it started blowing up because of the actors who were in it. But I just thought that was one of the most unique things I've seen by them taking the digital age and taking, between social media and the dating apps now.
Yeah.
Don't know where they thought a connection would be between an android and actual human beings and connecting. But I guess that was also part of the movie where those two people started connecting and they were like, love you. So
I guess they continued the theme throughout into their marketing. I guess that's kind of
they're also probably
consistent.
reaching. They're going for an audience that would understand a little bit more and be like, oh, this is an interesting premise. It's very smart. Don't get me wrong. They get paid a lot of money, and especially the Hollywood marketers. They half the budget when you really break down a lot of Hollywood movies and where the marketing goes or where the budget goes. Half of it's marketing most of the time. But
that's true.
Yeah, it is extremely smart of what they're trying to do.
So my last one,
creep.
and then we'll be done. As you mentioned, Paranormal Activity. I don't know if you've seen it.
Nope.
Maybe don't.
Yeah.
So this is more in terms of finding that niche when it comes to marketing and stuff, and in making sure that there would be some sales on it. So what they did originally, this film was screened at solely film festivals, nothing else. Paramount Pictures, took the rights for global distribution. And they ended up putting out a poll where they wanted to test the interest of people who would actually see the movie. You know, how we see like Instagram polls and things like that, or, which, you know, this was way back. But so they asked the people to vote if they would want it screened in their city or not. And they made a website to do that. And I'm curious to know if you guys think that would be something effective or not in terms of, you know, bop or flop, if you think this worked when it came to people voting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we talked about, you know, this conversation started with audience and what the audience wants, and it's kind of smart to directly ask them, do you want this or not? Because that's going to be a very clear way to get your answer. And, you know, instead of just kind of like putting stuff out there and seeing what works, if you ask your audience directly, hey, do you want to see this? There's your answer. So it could be effective in terms of learning what your audience likes, but they might not like the results if, you know, people say no. They're like, oh, well, that kind of worked against us, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can always fudge the data.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think it's smart, right? You're creating sort of a scarcity of supply and demand. It's like, hey, you got to get involved in this. You got to put a little money in the game to be interested. If you want to see this, which I'm not sure if you two, either of you remember the commercials for Paranormal when it was just like, they wouldn't show the trailer. They just showed the like audience freaking out. So you're like, what is happening? I want to see this.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember you're like, every theater we go to, it's not just one theater that was clearly like a test thing. It was like they kept showing different theaters of people losing their minds. And you're like, what is this movie? I want to see this. So you kind of love the idea of like, okay, now you got to work. You got to try to see this. Like, keep up that the supply and demand, right? Like, okay, I want to see this badly. Like, I love that type of marketing.
Yeah, it was really cool, really interesting, and I ended up feeling the exact same way when I saw the movie as the people did in the ads. It was terrifying, that movie, you know, because it was like the first thing that kind of experimented with that type of stuff, I would say.
Oh, there's Blair Witch.
Blair Witch, yeah, that was the first one where in theaters they'd literally passed out missing persons posters of these people in the film.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which was really cool. That was a different way,
That's a really
1999.
cool 1999. Yeah, that one they created a website. The actors had to hide. They weren't allowed to, like, there was like an NDA, so they basically hid. So people thought like they had to tell their own family, no, I'm still alive. Like, this is part of the movie.
But they
thing.
had to pretend they were missing.
It was so people were so convinced
thought
it was real because it was 1999. So it was a different age and stuff.
Granted, like, there was an ethical question in the sense where they were just like, they made it seem like this was a real thing and like this was legit found footage, like not a found footage film. It was like, we found this. They're dead now. Like,
and like, if you researched it and stuff, like the internet was still kind of small, so like not small, but like you could actually research the stuff and come up with that. But like that was one of when you read marketing, when you take any like marketing classes, they talk about how brilliant the Blair Witch program, like the project, that whole campaign was.
Yeah, it was really cool. But anyways, Paranormal Activity was obviously an absolute bop, and people still talk about it to this day. It was great how they just wanted to. Sorry, I know you do.
No.
I kind of like that your podcast. You're like, I'm going to bring Marissa on. We're going to talk horror movies. Going to see.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not the
She was
person to talk horror movies.
The marketing and stuff, but basically it ensured good sales in the cities that actually wanted to see it. But so that concludes our segment of Bop or Flop, despite not being the biggest horror movie. That's why I added in some things that were not in, you know, the ads and whatnot. But any closing thoughts from you guys for the people watching, do's and don'ts, marketing?
Ooh, you go.
I mean, the thing that I'm seeing really work well is, again, the trusted source, or like getting people that have reach. I mean, we do this one of the marketing things we do is webinar. And when they've been bringing this, in particular, clients been bringing in some bigger names that have a title or a company that people know about. When they do that, their webinars are getting people to show up. Like, people are going to want to watch people a lot of times. It's not about the topic a lot of times with what we're creating in our space and stuff like that. So think about who your audience is and who's people that they're going to know that they're going to try to sign up for. I mean, you could probably talk a lot about what we just did with Syracuse.
Yeah, I think a big part of that too is, you know, my turn for buzzword stuff, but tapping into those second level networks of those people. Take a drink. But, you know, not only like hearing from different people, but also getting in front of their audience. Like with the project we just did with Syracuse, we had a lot of notable alum in that show, and we've created promos for those people to then put in front of their audiences to get them to watch. So I think it's just kind of tapping into everybody and anybody that you can to kind of pay attention to what you're trying to market, I guess.
I mean, it's when we were at the bar and people were sitting there saying, holy F, is that Scott Hansen from Red Zone?
Yeah.
Like, that is marketing. When you think about that, really break it down, it's like, yeah, that guy could walk into a room and someone's going to stop and pay attention. It's like, okay, if I can work with them and have that out there, like if I put something out that Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone is going to be on this thing, people know who they are and they're going to be interested in coming in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Syracuse was phenomenal. I feel like it was really great, and Marisa killed it.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bop or flop?
Fortunately,
Absolute
I think our sound
bop.
effects are like not
Yeah,
good
yeah.
right now.
We
It's
need like an air
Betty
horn or
White.
something.
That's all it is, so we can't do it.
But thank you guys for joining me on this podcast. I appreciated your thoughts and your thoughts on bops and flops. So thank you everybody to watching, and we will see you next time.